This is Looks Good on Paper, a podcast from Willo about flipping the script on traditional hiring. I'm Anita Chohan, and every episode I put big voices in hiring and work culture through 3 quick-fire questions, speed dating style, to get the habits, trends, and ideas that matter. Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of the Looks Good on Paper podcast powered by Willo. Today we're joined by Julia Fulton. Julia is a hiring leader at Float and one of the Peaks Emerging Leaders of 2024. Huge. For our global listeners, that's a really big honor in Canada, and I'm so excited to have you here, Julia. From what I've heard and have seen online, you're really known for your human-first approach to hiring. I can see that you really champion the candidate experience, and I'm really excited to have your thoughts here today. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your role, how you got here, and tell me a little bit about Float.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat today. Yeah, I joke about just all my hills to die on, basically, is where it all comes from. My approach to hiring really came through being a candidate trying to break into tech specifically. I think it made me really remember and really champion candidate experience in the work that I do. Nobody really loves being on that side of the seat. And so how can we get what we need while still creating a great experience that then, can come back and serve us later down the line? I work for a company called Float. I'm the talent manager there. Float is really cool. We're a global organization. There's about 55, 60 team members at this point, but we hire all across the world, and we don't really have sort of a core time zone or anything like that. We work very intentionally asynchronously in order to ensure that everybody can kind of work on their time zone, push their work forward, and also live their lives. We call it, our sort of philosophy around it is your best work life. So yeah, it's awesome. I've been there for about a year and a half, and yeah, really, really fun.
Amazing. So glad to have you here today. I'm going to dig a little deeper into that more global async type of stuff that you talked about. I'm excited to hear about that. But you know the drill. It is the same 3 questions every season, speed dating style, and why don't we get started? So what is the biggest hiring mistake companies keep making even though they know it's clearly not working?
The first one that came to mind is not sharing compensation and other stuff up front. Comp is the big one. It's the buzz one. And there are lots of laws and regulations that are changing that, but still we can be a lot better and more clear about the way we're sharing compensation. But I also say other stuff because candidates are changing jobs is a really big decision, and taking the time to interview and to choose to interview with a company is a really, for some people it's a big time commitment that they don't want to make on a whim. Organizations have things like benefits packages. They know their PTO policy. They know these things. And if they truly are competitive, I think a lot of organizations can be better about sharing these things up front. Because it's what candidates want to know. Sometimes we forget that we're all working so that we can make a living and live our lives. And so let's just be upfront with the information that people are actually looking for at the end of the day.
It's true. It feels like a dance, a song and dance. It's just you get into the interview, the screening. What's the comp? What are you looking for? What do you need? But we all know it's going to come out. Just put it up front.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you have a range for the role. I have a budget for my life. Why do we just be so clear about that? But you start,
Yeah, it's so weird. Why do we play this game? It feels like this really weird social quirk that has just existed for so long.
It's the Spider-Man meme. I think about it all the time where it's what are your salary expectations for the role? Well, what's your budget? Well, what are you making right now? Well, what's the person in the role making right now? It's just hey, just say it. Someone just say a number, and it should be the organization hiring.
I love that. I think it's really unfortunate when I hear stories, I'll go through subreddits on candidate experience and stuff like that, and people job hunting or whatever, and people are just complaining about I went through all of this and then they lowballed me, right? So it's thinking about, obviously you saying at the beginning that you care so much with the candidate experience, I see that's obviously such a big thing for you. At Float, do you guys implement this?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we are very transparent at Float with everything from compensation to, our entire employee handbook is actually public facing on Notion, which is something that is so awesome. And this is what I was going to say, actually, is that these things also really make your process more efficient, because then you know that the people you're spending time with in the interview process have already opted in to what it is they're going to receive offer wise. We also have a same work, same pay philosophy. So every senior software engineer at Float makes the exact same no matter where they're based or how much experience they're coming in with or what have you. It's like one of my many favorite things about how we operate at Float. But so it also is beneficial to you, the hiring team, to share this stuff because it means that candidates are opting in knowing what they're going for.
I love that same pace, same work type of idea because I've done a lot of hiring as a fractional CMO and as a head of marketing for a few different companies through my time. And I remember we were hiring in New York for a partnerships manager that was going to be under me, the head of marketing. And that person, because of being in New York, was slated to make more than me. The department head who was managing the person.
Yeah.
And I remember, I felt some sort of way about it.
Oh, should I just change my address to be New York based and like would that solve all of this?
Right? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this makes me feel great as a leader. But I really appreciate that so much, especially as more companies become global. I feel like we're probably going to see a lot more of that.
I hope so. It is something that I am so like proud of, and I didn't implement it at Float by any means, but it's something that makes me so proud when I'm talking to candidates that it's just the level of clarity and transparency is something that we try to do. The compensation piece of it is one that I'm just like I'm so bullish on.
That's huge. It's amazing. And I think that those little touches will give you guys a really great name. Companies that implement things like this that care about the employees, whether or not they are hired and brought on, this is something that lasts longer than that interaction.
100%. It's the same that I feel about like not ghosting candidates and that sort of thing, which is another one of my hills to die on. Is like this candidate might not be the best candidate for that particular role, or it might not work out. But like if they have a good experience with you, they'll gossip about you in a good way. And like that's amazing. Like you'll fill your pipeline by people who've heard about you, or this particular candidate might come back, and I love when that happens.
Love.
And if we were crappy and if they didn't have a good time interviewing with us, they shouldn't come back. Do you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
that's such a good moment of like, oh, nice, we're doing our jobs right when that happens.
Yeah. And that they would come back again and they want to, even though they didn't get it the first time. I love hearing that actually happens because I felt like it's a phantom. I hear a lot of like hiring leaders saying things like, oh, we'll keep in touch and keep you in mind for other roles. And that never happens. So it's great to see you guys do it.
True. Well, I do commend the candidates for, keeping an eye on job postings because it's hard to manage that pipeline.
That's true.
It's something that I think TA people are a little like maybe under-resourced for or don't like I don't think ATSs do this super, super well. And also I don't think we always realize how strong a pipeline is of people that have been through and enjoyed the process in
Yeah,
the past.
it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. All right. So now on to question number 2. What's a hidden bias companies unknowingly have even when they try to be progressive in their hiring?
Something we've been struggling with a little bit at Float, which is over-indexing on like perfection, like under-indexing on growth potential is how I'd wrap it up into a
Okay.
nice bow. So I think a lot of the times we seek perfection in candidates and we treat any sort of areas of growth as a red flag. That's how I'd probably describe like what the pet peeve is for me is like, oh, they don't have experience developing this type of strategy. And I think we forget how much we all learn all the time in our roles. I've learned so much since I joined Float. And I think when we over index on like one-to-one fit of like job, um, I also think it gets us in trouble when we hire people who are like an amazing fit for the job on day one, because they might that you might actually consider that overqualified in terms of like role satisfaction in the long term.
Sure.
Because you want someone joining your team who's going to feel challenged by the role in a year. And if somebody's going to be able to crush it on day one in every single area that you can foresee, they might be a little bit bored kind of quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's actually important to leave a little bit of room for growth so that you can have people who are happy and challenged.
Absolutely. I've talked about this with a few other guests on the show where it's this idea that there's no accounting for that passion. And when someone has like a hunger to learn something and like tries to solve it and has those insightful moments, what does that bring to the process they're building?
Dude, I didn't go to HR school. I worked as a summer camp director.
Yeah,
That was my first career out of university was working full-time YMCA summer camps. But I'm so grateful to people in the people group, like we were chatting about it in the tech world, who sort of welcomed me in and helped me reframe the many legitimate skills that I had from that, industry
Yeah.
to working with people in tech. So yeah, there's so much to be said about like it's similar, like, oh my gosh, people who've worked in restaurants,
Yeah.
get them on
Oh
your
my
team.
gosh, they
Like
are crazy
hospitality.
good.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we under and index some of those skills like
Yeah.
problem solving. Resourcefulness is a really big one at Float where we all work asynchronously. And I got to kind of find an answer to something because my boss is asleep in Australia. She should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not always just about kind of the technical skills or the like bullet points on the job description. We want to leave a little bit of room for people to grow, learn, be ambitious, all of these kinds of things.
Absolutely. And I love that. This does something for the company culture to see people growing in this way. So I feel like it's a win across the board. But why don't we move on to question number 3?
Okay.
Okay. If you were to suddenly remove CVs from your current hiring process, what would that look like?
Do you mean dream world or like
Yeah.
how would I get what I need? Help me understand the question.
Of a good visioning exercise. I like some
Sure.
design thinking, and that's why this question came up. It's like, let's, because, we've had about this, the CV free movement that Willo was pushing forward. It was really tough for a lot of the people to imagine a world. And I think that's why it's scary. When we don't know what else could be, we can't imagine, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll share something with everyone here today. I hate cars. I think a lot of people are dependent on cars because they can't imagine what it'd be like without it. And
Mm.
if we start imagining a world with a CV or a car, because they're clearly the same, what would that look like?
Okay. This is okay. Thank you for helping me with the question. So I went through a little thought experiment and I thought it was kind of funny where I landed, which I never thought I would say, but cover letters. I haven't read a cover letter in my entire career. And
Worst.
that's literally I'd never asked for one. If I see one, I don't read it. Like, please no. What I do love and what we do at Float is love hate is that we ask some questions as part of the application. If people are applying, all over the place, that's a lot more time than we're realizing
Yeah.
we want to be careful what we're asking of them
Sure.
and cognizant so that we're not asking too much. However, I do think a balanced and like level of application questions with good and thoughtful questions that you're actually going to read is sort of my middle ground there.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed that. And in the age of AI, it's gotten a lot more challenging and I've had to like MacGyver my questions to get them to be a little bit more specific, and that's okay. I can flex, right?
Yeah.
All good. And so when I think of like what's actually valuable when I'm reviewing applications, does like the CV is a little bit more of a like box checking exercise. Like, am I seeing what I need to see in terms of like job titles and, type of orgs you've worked at, like these kinds of things. But what I get really excited by is like thoughtful, authentic, bespoke answers to our application questions. What about Float looks exciting to you? It's a problem that you saw in the job description that you'd be like stoked to solve or that you've done before or what have you. So when I was going through this thought experiment, I was like, oh, I actually think I wouldn't mind that much if I didn't have a CV because those are the pieces I like the most, the application questions. So I was like, well, maybe I'd flesh those out a little bit more and maybe add a few more to just like gather a bit more information. And then I'm like, no, this has just turned into a cover letter, which is something I famously hate. I hate. So I had a little laugh to myself about that. But that's kind of where my mind went. It's like, let's get someone's like authentic answer. But something we do at Float for some roles is also and because we work asynchronously, Loom is a tool that we use a lot where you record videos, screen sharing, that kind of thing. So another thing is sort of like, record a Loom explaining an answer to this question. And I also have kind of a love-hate relationship with that because, again, from a candidate's POV, they're like, well, you're probably not even going to read they don't know if you're really going to review their application. So it is tough. I find it tough to ask for stuff like that. But these are some things that I'd sort of like dance with expanding on if we were to do away with the CV. But I hate the fact that it's essentially a cover letter. It
basically is. But more purposeful. Let's be real here. It's purposeful. Yep. I think that if you were to do that, it sounds like you'd be thoughtful about the questions you'd ask.
Certainly.
It wouldn't just be a free-for-all, because I think that's the modern cover letter, just like the modern CV, is rife with issues. I feel like everything is AI. What's everything's AI, right? Yeah.
So it's just the problem, the biggest maybe problem with it right now is it's not specific. And so the questions I would ask and the questions I do ask would be highly specific to like what I actually want to know and care about from a candidate, not just like a formatted letter as if we're like sending it in the mail, which, we're not.
We're not. Yeah, and I think like you've touched upon stuff that I've heard in, just the spaces that we both hang out in. But what it sounds like is a lot of people are like very for candidates, give them a chance to show passion, to show authenticity, and to figure out from the hiring side, like having skills-based questions and being able to determine through that, but then also allowing them to choose their own speed, because some people might not be able to show up on video. Some people are better with writing. So it feels like right now there's no real clear-cut answer to replacing it. But what you did say around the resume or the CV is ubiquitous, that it's almost like a calling card. And so I always ask, what could replace that? And what I'm hearing is LinkedIn. What do you think about that?
Yeah, literally. The opportunity to present yourself in a way that is like specific to you and like strength-based is a great point. And so for Float, when I applied a year and a half ago, they asked for a Loom video. And at the time I had been doing a lot of like short form content with my other job at the time, like TikToks and stuff like that. So I just went out for a walk and I recorded a like TikTok style video answering the question. They were like, that's the best application video we've ever seen. And to be fair, it's probably one of the only ones where the person wasn't in front of a camera. And so I think, and it's, I don't know. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I think when we set candidates up for success is when we can like allow them to sort of really, present in a way that shows their strengths and their skills.
Absolutely. Honestly, I feel like that resonates so much. I think like being able to just show what you're good at. And not everyone's going to be on video like the way that obviously you and I are showing up on video right now, right? Like we have totally different energy. I also was in theater. I also have this type of energy. So I have that type of thing that I can bring. And that's actually where you and I shine, right? But someone might not be that comfortable on camera. And that is something that I've heard a lot about. Even because like Willo, as I mentioned, is a one-way video interviewing tool. And we do know that like this is actually a really cool way like to really shorten the screening process by using a tool like Willo and other tools that are out there. But I know that not everybody shows up in that way, right? So how do you optimize for the candidate? So it's just very much like, that's why I'm so excited to talk to you, because I know you care so much about the candidate experience. Like, how do you get good hires from a TA perspective, but then also allow those people to shine, right? So that's the question.
I think another thing that I jotted down but I didn't choose as one of my answers is that I do think we over-index on interview skills. I don't need someone to do the STAR method if that's not like, if like communicating in those sorts of ways are like crucial to the job. So I think it's like role skills versus interview skills, very easy to smush together, but very important to separate.
Agreed. Okay, and we are on to our wildcard question. How do you feel about using AI in the hiring process? And do you use any tools?
My opinion's always changing because of the landscape that we're in. I think there are great things we should be doing and that can like really streamline and make things more efficient. A great example is note taking. I can like actually listen and ask better probing questions and develop a better relationship with candidates when I know that my notes are over here, and like I'll go through them after and I'll still, and here's the important part. Actually, this is a perfect example. Is like it's not a 100% replacement of my note-taking activities because I'm not just copy pasting the notes from MetaView into my ATS and saying done. It's super important for me to still go through and like when I'm sort of formulating my thoughts based on, the metrics that we hire for and this sort of thing, I'm still spending some time doing that for sure. But I'm able to conduct better interviews, provide a better candidate experience, and definitely save some time. I guess like to summarize, my thoughts on AI in the interview process are there's lots of areas where it can be great. And I think we need to remember that it's not foolproof. And so to still be really like diligent and meticulous and like thoughtful about where we're using it and like also where we're not. Like where do you still want to have that full human element, and that's a decision you make. Like just because we can doesn't mean we should.
It's
for
true.
everything.
Absolutely. And actually, in the interview that's coming out tomorrow with Jim Miller from Ashby, he says that. I asked him, like, what does the trend look like for 2026 when it comes to hiring in AI? And he's like, more intentionality. And you hit it right
Yeah.
on the net. Just being more intentional about the tools you're using, how you're using it. And nothing is a replacement for the human nature of the work that we do.
I think a lot of people are going a little bit full circle. We were talking about this with internal documentation. We're big on writing at Float because of the way that we work. And I think a lot of us have, like, I sometime last year was like, or no, yeah, in the past few months was like, I'm going back to analog more or less because I just realized that I was sick of cutting down fluff. And I was like, I probably could have actually done this in about the same amount of time. And it would preserve my own voice a little bit better if I
Absolutely.
wrote with myself and then use AI tools for things like grammar and, suggestions and these sorts of things. But
Polishing, tidying
yeah,
up. Yeah, because I feel like what we're observing is like a flattening of culture and our style and our
diluting of
individuality.
voices and styles, totally. Yeah,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
that's all the questions I have for you today. And also, thank you for having your cat present. Please, what's your cat's name?
Yes, her name is Bo. Her formal name is Bo, but she goes by BoBo.
BoBo. Adorable. She has been very lovely to watch, and she's obviously contributed so much to the conversation.
And I wouldn't be where I am in my career without her. Let's be clear.
Obviously. Thank you
Obviously.
so much, Julia. It's been lovely to chat with you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and coming and taking a chance on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks for joining me on Looks Good on Paper, powered by Willo. If today's 3-question sprint gave you something new to think about, hit subscribe and share with your network, because in hiring, and really in life, it's never just about what looks good on paper.